The finals just had another recent developer live stream, and this time around we actually did get information on Season 8, 9, and even 10 plus. So a bunch of teaser info there and what we could see in the future. I'll cover all the other additional details like what was in chat as well as the stream itself. Additionally, we did have an official announcement today, where last up we'll go over some community mentionables, as well as a whole bunch more. What's up, World of Utopia, here back with another video. Today we're checking out all things the finals. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. And the stream, of course, was the Embark Creator Showdown, where there was devs versus other creators. But as I did mention, even during this stream, we also had some teasers. The first one here does come from Rob, although the starter question came from Vaini La, who said, Oscar, are the Namatama plushies coming back? That they have been sold out. And actually, surprisingly enough, the small and the large plushie has been sold out, although the small one didn't happen till sometime recently. The large one's essentially sold out within a day, although Rob does say here there will be a new store coming soon. Looks like they're going to be adding a ton of new things. That also will coincide with the majors. I'll go over that in a second here. But yeah, whenever they do drop the new store, I would definitely try to get the plushie day one, or whatever exclusive item they have that's limited, as those sell out very, very fast. Everything else is still available though on their store. And actually, speaking of the store update, there was something that I said was coinciding with the majors. I talked about this one last week, but Rob did tease that there would be some unique personal codes for those that do end up visiting the majors. He does reiterate again that yes, there are unique personal codes for in-game cosmetics for the people that do visit the majors, so you can obtain that if you are present there. He also does say there's going to be a very limited black and golden The Finals branded mouse that's going to be on sale in the store and some at the majors. But he does clarify it is very limited, and for an example, it might only be 200 units. Again, they said they'd have some at the majors, so your best chance is probably picking one up there. This is even more exclusive than the vinyl, which only had 500 units. So this one's even less with 200, or at least his example here of being 200. Again, that detail could be murky there, they're not for sure. But yes, they'll have a black and golden The Finals branded mouse. So do look out for that one on the Finals merch page. I would definitely keep your eyes on it around the majors if you did want this. Next one here is about those leaks, what we're going to be seeing in the future. This first one comes from Phil Grizzy, who says, what weapon would you like in the next season of the Finals? Rob actually does answer this saying we don't want to add weapons every season that essentially would flood the game, but there is a couple of them on the list still. So while it might not be another weapon with Season 8, we don't know for sure, they definitely still have more on the list and more to come. Another question here from Entrantra, who says, movement specializations for light, please. Rob actually does answer this one saying, I think that's actually planned for Season 10 or 11. He's going to check with his dev team. But yeah, we might actually see some new movement ability for light. Would be pretty cool there. And it does look like we are getting some more specializations. Again, not determined for what season though. Rob also does hit on the weapon notion here, saying they have a lot of things they want to do with a lot of weapons, gadgets, etc. in the long run. So yeah, they do have specializations planned, they have weapons and even gadgets still planned. So even though they don't want to flood the game per se, they still want to add new things. Honing in on specializations here, we had a comment from Hippuji. They said new specialization soon, where Rob does say they have a couple of them in the works, but not for Season 8, most likely Season 9 and Season 10. He said, I think you will understand why when you see Season 8. So even though, yes, it looks like there's probably not going to be any new weapons for Season 8, and maybe new specializations, or even gadgets, we could see a stacked amount of new content, meaning they were able to focus on everything else, like maps, modes, etc., especially when it comes to the majors. We'll have to wait and see on all that though. But it does seem like they are really honing in on the map stuff. At least that's the other end of the content spectrum. And actually, speaking of new maps, we actually might have got a teaser for one we could be seeing soon, potentially with Season 8. Rob does say here there will be a medieval map if he gets 1,000 Robs in chat. There was a bunch of them, so assuming so, that did actually play out. Again, he really does like to tease this type of stuff that he can play into. He did that with me on stream for a cosmetic. I can't remember the exact specific cosmetic we talked about, but I said I would really like to see that, and he said, maybe we'll work on it back then. And then a few weeks later, I'm pretty sure that it was in the store. So he really likes to hit these like easy layouts with that. So I really do think we could see a medieval map. I know a lot of people have really wanted that, but I do think this is the biggest teaser we have so far. Just going off the notion of my interactions with him, he really does like to tease sort of this way. But again, that's not 100% confirmed. We don't even know if there's going to be a new map for Season 8. Regardless, somewhat of a teaser and speculation there. And actually, speaking of that, all the teaser stuff, what's going on with Season 8 marketing? Well, people have been asking about that. Where are the teasers? Where is the marketing for Season 8? Rob actually does hit on that, saying they're going to start teasing a bit the week before. This time, they're going to try a little bit different and go-to-market strategy. Now, what exactly is go-to-market strategy here, or what could he mean? We do have to piece a few things together here. More than likely, as he says, it's the week before, so it's a more compressed timeline. So instead of it being 2 to 3 weeks, it's going to be 7 days, meaning a shorter window. Since they have a different go-to-market strategy and different reveal cadence, it can essentially change where it's going to happen and when. So the creator streams, in-game client pop-ups, even shorts or TikToks displayed first. There might even be with that creator first vibes. Given they just ran a creator showdown, they could emphasize highlighting partners on stream, or even having them showcase the update, even having them hit and highlight on that. Although they kind of have done that before a bit, but for sure this time around it's going to be in burst over drip. So expect one big week, short teasers, a proper trailer, blog post very close to day 1 that leads to patch notes. As before, they used to do 2 weeks, they had blog posts nearly every single day. Seems like they want to narrow that down to a 1 week approach instead of spanning it out in 2 weeks. I do think that's actually a good idea. I think a lot of times when they have the 2-week cadence there, at least in my opinion, that can introduce some fatigue, even on my end trying to keep up with everything and the new patches that drop nearly every single day. Trying to get those videos out to you and enough information, yeah, it could even induce some fatigue on my end. So I do think that that's actually a better play to kind of condense it into a 1-week format, have a short little teaser like most games, and then just do one big launch trailer. I think that's a much better play there, so hopefully they do kind of go with that. We'll have to see on the other details, though. Again, this is really going to be pertaining to the majors. At least that's what I'm thinking. So I do think a lot is going to play into that and how they actually announce Season 8 and deal with the teasers. Moving on, though, this is kind of a fun one that they threw in here, or someone asked. This is from Fran Alchivo01, asking, what are the chances of a barricade rework like you guys did to the OG stun gun? Rob actually does answer here, saying they have a lot of plans for the barricade, and they actually have some working prototypes. That's not going to be out for another couple of seasons. Again, we really don't know what they mean here by that, but it does look like they might potentially rework how the barricade actually works. It could have to do with its mechanics or even how it's damaged. Really have to wait and see on that one. Although I'm sure that one is a lot of work. As they mentioned, they have working prototypes, but just not in game yet or being published anytime soon. There was one other one here, but this one was a little bit confusing, so I'm not for sure if this is the answer to it. Someone here by Erat AK says, are we getting karambit knives? Now, I can't find any other context to this, but Rob does answer this one, but he answers it over a half an hour later. He says, I would never leak, but the answer absolutely is yes. Now, sometimes Rob's answers are about 10 to 15 minutes after the previous chat. Since this one was so long, though, and Erat actually did ask a few other questions, although, again, pertaining to this context-wise, this seems the only one that aligns with this question. I'm just not exactly sure there, but maybe, potentially, we could get karambit knives. Does seem like more than likely we would eventually have gotten those. I know a ton of people have asked for them. Of course, they like the animations that they see in other games. But yeah, I would kind of guess this is the context there, but take that with a grain of salt, as I don't know for sure since it was answered so long later. In fact, almost around 40 minutes later, which I've never seen for any of the questions that Rob has actually answered, at least not that length of time. Last up here, we have our community mentionables and the esport mention as well. There was some additional updates here with that, where Oscar actually hits on this one, saying there's some important updates to share regarding the majors. The open qualifier map pool and veto is actually in play. They do say, though, that there is technical limitations. The open qualifier map pool will include 7 maps. That does mean that Seoul under construction will be temporarily removed, but the veto process will go as follows. Team 1 will ban, then Team 2. Team 1 will pick a map, and then Team 2 will pick a map. Team 1 will then ban, and then Team 2 will ban, and the remaining maps in the decider there will kind of be put into play. So each team gets 2 picks and 2 bans, meaning they can save 2 maps that cannot be banned, or at least eliminated in that process. So pretty cool there. Again, I'm glad they actually have a map decider. They do mention that the open qualifier here can be competed on a PC, Xbox, or even PlayStation. They do mention the closed qualifiers in the Grand Majors, though, will only be able to be played on one of their specialized PC. They do mention console players are still welcome. It's just to ensure that they can access a PC for the day they play the closed qualifiers and have the build downloaded in advance. So do make sure if you're a console player trying to get into these majors, you will eventually need a PC for the closed qualifier. However, of course, if you make it to the Grand Majors, they'll have PCs there for you. This is only for the non-LAN and on-stage events. They do mention that at DreamHack, all matches will be played on a 24-inch 1080p 24Hz monitor. That's to ensure consistent performance. I'm actually surprised they haven't upped it to 1440p given all of the new technology out there. And for sure, computers can handle 240 at 1440p nowadays, especially when you have things like DLSS. although who's to say they'll have that enabled automatically. I'm sure settings will be locked, but regardless, as you can see there, that's what they're played on. With the community mentionables, we do have those from my community. I'll be doing another giveaway here, so check out my Discord for those giveaways. I do post those every now and then, so if you want to jump in and get those will be posted pretty frequently. But we do have those features from the Star Models page. This first one here comes from B-Doll, who does a Moist Critical Penguin Z cosplay here. And again, since he's been playing it recently, this is actually a pretty cool one. Even though this was made way before then, we've had features of this before, but still really cool. Next up here, we have one from Urk Pro. He shows off the TF2 Sniper. We've seen a few of these, but this one's actually really good as well, and a nice one to eventually add to the collection of TF2 cosplays. Third up here we have one from Thimble, who shows off his version of a Western Raptor. Got some really cool cowboy aesthetic to this, and almost plays into some modern day stuff, and the colors and highlights even match pretty well too. Fourth up here we have one from Flesh Cobbler, who says with liberty and cash outs for all. Again, yeah, this was around 4th of July, so another cosplay there with that. Last up here, but not least, we have one from Bolin Burger, who shows off Mikasa from Attack on Titan. And yeah, this one's actually really well done. Actually really matches her color tones so well. Of course, they can only do so much with the kind of half tops there and crop tops. Rob did say eventually we would get more of those. Hopefully that does happen eventually. Overall though, check out for today's video. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, until the next one. Deuces.